There is a strange paradox in the story of human life. Every man says he wants to become stronger, wiser, and more successful. Every man dreams of greatness, achievement, and respect. Yet, at the same time, he spends most of his life chasing comfort. He seeks the easy path, the safe choice, the place where nothing hurts and nothing demands too much from him. And without realizing it, this desire for comfort slowly becomes the very thing that defeats him. Look carefully at the world around you. You will see a generation surrounded by convenience like never before in human history. Everything is faster, easier, and more comfortable than ever. With a single touch, food arrives at the door. With a single screen, entertainment never ends. With endless distractions, the mind rarely has to sit in silence or struggle with difficulty. Life has become softer, smoother, and easier. Yet, strangely, many people today feel weaker, more anxious, and less prepared to face real challenges. Why is that? Why does a life filled with comfort often produce minds that feel fragile? Why do small problems now feel overwhelming to so many people? And why is it that some of the strongest individuals in history were born not in comfort, but in hardship? The answer lies in a truth that many people try to avoid. Pain is not the enemy of human growth. Pain is the teacher that shapes the human mind. It is the force that awakens discipline, courage, and resilience. Throughout history, every great thinker, leader, athlete, and creator has been forged in the fire of difficulty. Their strength was not built in comfort. It was built in struggle. Comfort may feel peaceful, but it quietly weakens the human spirit. When life becomes too easy, the mind stops sharpening itself. It stops pushing its limits. It stops preparing for challenges. Slowly, almost invisibly, comfort turns into a trap. A beautiful prison where the body relaxes but the mind grows weaker. Pain, on the other hand, does the opposite. Pain disrupts the illusion of ease. It forces the mind to wake up. It forces a person to confront their fears, their weaknesses, and their limitations. In those uncomfortable moments, something powerful begins to happen. The mind begins to adapt. The character begins to strengthen. The individual begins to discover a version of themselves they never knew existed. This is why some of the most transformative moments in life are also the most difficult ones. Failure, rejection, struggle, and hardship often become the turning points that shape a person's future. They break the comfort that was slowly weakening the mind and replace it with awareness, strength, and determination. But in the modern world, many people try to eliminate pain from their lives completely. They avoid challenge, escape difficulty, and search constantly for the easiest path. And without realizing it, they are walking directly into the philosophy of defeat, because a man is rarely destroyed by pain. More often, he is defeated by comfort. Today, we are going to explore a powerful idea that has shaped the destiny of countless individuals throughout history: the philosophy of pain. We will uncover why struggle is necessary for growth, how comfort quietly weakens the mind, and why the path to strength often begins in places most people are trying to escape. Pain has always been misunderstood by the human mind. Most people spend their lives trying to escape it, avoid it, or numb it. From childhood, we are taught that pain is something negative, something that must be eliminated as quickly as possible. Yet if we look carefully at the story of human growth, we discover a surprising truth. Pain is one of the greatest teachers life has ever given to mankind. Without it, the human mind would rarely evolve, rarely strengthen, and rarely discover its true potential. When a person experiences pain, something powerful happens inside the mind. Pain interrupts comfort. It disturbs routine. It forces attention. In moments of suffering, the mind suddenly becomes alert. It begins asking questions it never asked before. Why did this happen? What must I change? How can I become stronger? These questions are the beginning of growth. They push a person to examine their weaknesses, their habits, and their decisions. In comfortable moments, these questions rarely appear. Comfort allows the mind to sleep. Pain forces it to wake up. Throughout human history, the greatest transformations have always emerged from difficult moments. A person who has never faced failure rarely understands discipline. Someone who has never struggled rarely develops resilience. Struggle acts like fire, in which the character of a human being is forged. Just as metal becomes stronger when exposed to intense heat, the human mind becomes stronger when it passes through hardship. Without this process, strength remains undeveloped. Consider how pain forces adaptation. When life becomes difficult, people search for solutions. They learn new skills, develop new perspectives, and discover abilities they never knew they possessed. Pain creates pressure, and pressure produces creativity. Many innovations, discoveries, and breakthroughs in history were born from problems and challenges that demanded answers. If everything had remained comfortable, the motivation to solve those problems might never have existed. Pain also teaches humility. In moments of success and comfort, the human ego often grows stronger. A person begins believing they are invincible, that they control everything, that life will always remain easy. Pain shatters this illusion. It reminds the human mind that life is unpredictable and that growth requires constant effort. This realization does not weaken a person. Instead, it grounds them in reality and encourages continuous self-improvement. Another powerful lesson pain teaches is emotional depth. A person who has never suffered often struggles to understand the suffering of others. Their empathy remains limited because they have never truly felt hardship themselves. But someone who has experienced pain develops a deeper understanding of humanity. They recognize the struggles of others, they become more compassionate, and their perspective on life becomes richer and more mature. Pain, therefore, expands not only strength but also emotional intelligence. Pain also reveals hidden potential. Many people underestimate their own abilities because they have never been forced to test them. When life becomes difficult, the human mind begins discovering reserves of strength it never realized existed. A person who believed they were weak suddenly learns they can endure far more than expected. Difficult circumstances push individuals beyond their imagined limits, revealing capacities that comfort would have kept hidden forever. There is also an important psychological principle behind this process. The human brain develops through challenge. When we face difficult tasks, our mind forms new connections, learns new patterns, and builds greater mental resilience. Without challenge, this development slows down. The brain becomes accustomed to routine and minimal effort. Pain, in this sense, acts like exercise for the mind. It stretches mental capacity, strengthens focus, and improves problem-solving abilities. However, the lesson of pain does not mean that suffering itself is the goal of life. The true value of pain lies in the transformation it produces. Pain is a signal that something must change. It pushes a person to grow, to adapt, and to become stronger than before. When someone learns to interpret pain as a teacher rather than an enemy, their relationship with life changes dramatically. Instead of feeling defeated by difficulties, they begin seeing challenges as opportunities for development. Many of the strongest individuals in history did not become great because life was easy for them. In fact, their greatness often emerged precisely because life was difficult. Adversity forced them to develop discipline, persistence, and courage. Without those hardships, the qualities that later defined their success might never have appeared. Pain also teaches patience. In moments of struggle, people realize that growth cannot happen instantly. Solutions require effort, learning requires time, and improvement demands persistence. These lessons build mental endurance, a quality that allows individuals to continue moving forward, even when progress feels slow. Comfort rarely teaches patience because comfort rarely demands perseverance. There is also a paradox hidden within pain. Although people fear it, pain often becomes the foundation of their greatest achievements. A failure pushes someone to study harder. A rejection motivates someone to improve their skills. A loss forces someone to rebuild their life with greater wisdom. In this way, pain becomes the starting point of transformation. What initially appears as a setback often becomes the catalyst for growth. When a person learns to accept pain as part of the human journey, they stop running from challenges. Instead, they begin approaching life with courage. They understand that every difficulty carries a lesson, every struggle contains an opportunity, and every painful experience has the potential to strengthen the mind. This perspective does not eliminate pain, but it transforms its meaning. In the end, pain is not merely suffering, it is instruction. It is the voice of experience teaching the human mind how to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Without pain, life might feel comfortable, but it would also remain shallow. Growth would slow, character would weaken, and potential would remain undiscovered. Pain, therefore, plays a profound role in shaping the human journey, not as an enemy of progress, but as one of its most powerful teachers. Human beings have always been attracted to comfort. It feels safe, peaceful, and pleasant. Comfort gives the illusion that life is stable and predictable. When everything around us is easy, when there is no pressure, no struggle, and no immediate challenge, the mind begins to believe that this state will last forever. This is where one of the greatest illusions of human life begins. Comfort quietly convinces a person that growth is unnecessary and that effort can be postponed. It creates a soft mental environment where reality is slowly replaced by assumption. The danger of comfort is not that it feels good, but that it slowly hides the truth about our abilities and our weaknesses. When a person lives inside comfort for too long, they stop questioning themselves. They stop examining their habits, their discipline, and their direction. Everything seems fine on the surface. The routine continues, the days pass peacefully, and the mind becomes relaxed. But beneath this calm surface, something important is disappearing. The sharpness of the mind begins to fade. The hunger to improve becomes weaker, and the ability to face challenges slowly declines. Comfort creates a world where problems appear smaller than they really are. When a person is surrounded by convenience and ease, they often underestimate the difficulty of real life. They begin believing that success will come naturally, that goals will be achieved without deep struggle, and that challenges will somehow resolve themselves. This belief is comforting, but it is also misleading. Life has never rewarded those who remain passive. The moment real difficulty appears, the illusion of comfort begins to crack. Pain is the force that breaks this illusion. It arrives without asking permission, and when it arrives, it forces the human mind to confront reality. Suddenly, the comfortable assumptions disappear. The person realizes that life demands strength, discipline, and courage. Pain exposes weaknesses that comfort kept hidden. It reveals habits that were destructive, fears that were ignored, and limitations that were never challenged. In this moment, the mind can no longer hide behind pleasant beliefs. It must face the truth. This is why painful experiences often become moments of deep awakening. When everything is comfortable, the mind rarely feels the urgency to change. But when pain enters life, the urgency becomes undeniable. A failure forces someone to examine their effort. A loss forces someone to rethink their decisions. A crisis forces someone to confront their fears. Pain strips away the illusions that comfort built and replaces them with clarity. It shows the individual where they truly stand. One of the most important truths revealed by pain is the difference between imagined strength and real strength. Many people believe they are strong simply because they have never faced serious difficulty. As long as life remains easy, they assume their confidence and stability will continue forever. But true strength is only discovered when pressure appears. Pain creates that pressure. It pushes the mind into situations where resilience must be tested. In those moments, people discover whether their confidence was real or simply a product of comfortable circumstances. Pain also forces honesty with oneself. During comfortable periods, it is easy to ignore personal flaws. People delay improvement because the consequences of their weaknesses are not immediately visible. A person may neglect discipline, postpone important goals, or avoid difficult responsibilities because nothing urgent is forcing them to change. Pain removes this luxury. When a problem becomes painful enough, ignoring it is no longer possible. The individual must either face it or suffer its consequences. Another reason pain reveals reality is that it removes distractions. In comfortable environments, people often fill their lives with entertainment, temporary pleasures, and endless distractions. These distractions make it easier to avoid deeper questions about purpose, growth, and direction. Pain interrupts this pattern. When someone is struggling, their attention becomes focused. The mind becomes serious. The person begins thinking about what truly matters, what must change, and what kind of life they want to build. Pain also teaches the reality of effort. Comfort can create the belief that success should be quick and easy. Many people become frustrated when they discover that meaningful achievements require time, discipline, and persistence. Pain corrects this misunderstanding. It teaches that progress often involves sacrifice and patience. It shows that every meaningful accomplishment requires facing obstacles and learning from mistakes. This confrontation with reality can feel uncomfortable, but it is also incredibly valuable. When a person understands the truth about their situation, they gain the power to change it. So, illusions keep people trapped because they prevent honest self reflection. Pain removes the illusions and forces clarity. It tells the individual exactly where improvement is needed. Once that clarity exists, real growth becomes possible. Another powerful effect of pain is that it redefines priorities. In comfortable times, people may focus on trivial concerns, small pleasures, and temporary distractions. But when life becomes difficult, priorities suddenly shift. The individual begins valuing resilience, discipline, relationships, and personal growth more deeply. Pain reminds people of what truly matters and what is simply noise in the background of life. Many individuals who have experienced deep challenges later describe those moments as turning points. At the time, the pain felt overwhelming, but it forced them to grow in ways comfort never could. They became more self aware, more disciplined, and more focused on meaningful goals. The painful moment acted like a wake up call that redirected their lives toward greater purpose. This is why pain, despite being uncomfortable, plays an essential role in personal development. It acts as a mirror that reflects reality with brutal honesty. It shows the strengths that have been developed and the weaknesses that still require attention. While comfort hides these truths behind pleasant illusions, pain exposes them clearly. Understanding this relationship changes how a person views hardship. Instead of seeing pain only as an enemy, they begin recognizing its ability to reveal truth. Pain forces the human mind to wake up from the illusions of comfort and confront life with clarity. It teaches that real strength comes from awareness, discipline, and the willingness to grow. In the end, comfort may provide temporary peace, but it often hides reality. Pain may disturb the mind, but it reveals the truth. And in the long journey of human development, truth is far more valuable than illusion, because only truth gives a person the power to change, improve, and become stronger than they were before. One of the most subtle and dangerous traps in human life is the comfort zone. It does not appear threatening at first. In fact, it feels safe, pleasant, and relaxing. The comfort zone is a mental space where a person experiences minimal stress, a minimal challenge, and minimal risk. Everything feels controlled and predictable. There is no urgency to struggle, no pressure to push beyond limits, and no strong reason to change. At first glance, this seems like the ideal way to live. Yet beneath this calm surface lies a quiet process that slowly weakens the human mind. The mind of a human being is designed for challenge. Just like muscles in the body grow stronger through resistance, the mind grows stronger through difficulty. When people face challenges, their brain becomes active. They think more deeply, they analyze situations, they develop strategies, and they build resilience. Each obstacle becomes a form of training that sharpens mental strength. But when a person lives constantly inside comfort, this training disappears. The mind begins to operate on the lowest level of effort. Over time, the brain adapts to this lack of challenge. It becomes accustomed to convenience and ease. Tasks that once required effort are replaced by easier alternatives. Discipline becomes weaker because it is no longer necessary. The mind gradually prefers activities that provide quick pleasure rather than long-term growth. Shift happens slowly, almost invisibly. A person may not notice the change at first, but their mental endurance begins to decline. One of the first signs of this decline is the growing avoidance of difficulty. When someone becomes deeply attached to comfort, they begin avoiding tasks that feel demanding or uncomfortable. Instead of facing problems directly, they delay them. Instead of challenging themselves, they choose easier paths. This habit slowly trains the mind to escape from effort rather than confront it. What once felt like a small inconvenience now feels like a heavy burden. As this pattern continues, the person's tolerance for discomfort becomes smaller. Situations that require patience, focus, or persistence start feeling overwhelming. A minor obstacle may produce frustration. A simple failure may feel devastating. The mind, having lived too long in ease, loses its ability to handle pressure. The person may begin believing that life itself has become too difficult, when in reality, it is the mind that has become weaker. This psychological weakening does not happen because the person lacks intelligence or potential. It happens because their mental environment has removed the conditions necessary for growth. Without challenge, the mind becomes passive. Without struggle, resilience fades. Comfort begins shaping habits that prioritize immediate satisfaction over long-term development. Another effect of the comfort zone is the gradual loss of ambition. When life becomes too comfortable, the desire to achieve something greater begins to fade. Ambition is fueled by dissatisfaction, curiosity, and the urge to improve. The mind settles into familiar patterns and stops imagining possibilities beyond its current state. This does not mean the person becomes unhappy. In fact, they may feel temporarily content, but this contentment often lacks depth and purpose. It becomes a shallow form of satisfaction built on stability rather than growth. Over time, this stagnation can lead to feelings of emptiness. The individual may sense that something is missing, even though life appears comfortable on the surface. The comfort zone also limits creativity and learning. That's a step. Growth requires exploration and experimentation. When people challenge themselves, they encounter new situations that force them to think differently. They make mistakes, learn from them, and develop new abilities. But inside the comfort zone, exploration becomes rare. The person repeats the same routines, interacts with familiar environments, and avoids uncertain experiences. As a result, learning slows down and creativity begins to shrink. Fear plays a significant role in maintaining this comfort zone. The more someone becomes accustomed to ease, the more frightening uncertainty begins to feel. Taking risks, trying new things, or facing unfamiliar challenges starts to appear dangerous. The mind exaggerates potential failure because it has lost experience dealing with adversity. This fear strengthens the walls of the comfort zone, making it even harder to escape. Ironically, the very place that once felt safe begins to transform into a psychological prison. The person remains inside not because they are incapable of leaving, but because their mind has become conditioned to avoid discomfort. The longer they stay inside this space, the stronger the resistance to change becomes. Life, however, does not remain comfortable forever. Challenges eventually appear in every human journey. Economic struggles, personal failures, unexpected responsibilities, or emotional hardships arrive without warning. When these moments come, the person who has lived too long in comfort often feels unprepared. Their mind, having avoided difficulty for years, suddenly faces pressure it does not know how to handle. This is why many individuals feel defeated when life becomes demanding. The problem is not always the difficulty of the situation itself. Often the deeper issue is that the mind has lost its strength through prolonged comfort. Like an unused muscle that becomes weak, the mind that avoids challenge loses its resilience. However, the human mind also possesses an incredible ability to rebuild strength. The moment a person begins stepping outside the comfort zone, the process of growth restarts. Facing small challenges begins to restore confidence. Accepting discomfort gradually increases resilience. Each effort strengthens the mental capacity to endure greater difficulties. This process requires conscious effort because the comfort zone naturally pulls the mind back toward ease. Growth demands a willingness to tolerate temporary discomfort for the sake of long-term strength. It means choosing discipline when laziness feels easier, choosing effort when rest feels more attractive, and choosing growth when familiarity feels safe. When a person understands the hidden danger of constant comfort, their perspective on challenge changes. Difficulty is no longer seen as an enemy, but as a necessary part of mental development. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to train the mind, expand its capacity, and strengthen its resilience. The comfort zone may feel peaceful, but it slowly weakens the human spirit if it becomes permanent. A life without challenge may appear easy, yet it gradually reduces the mind's ability to face reality. True strength emerges only when individuals step beyond comfort and allow difficulty to shape their character. In this way, the comfort zone reveals its paradox. It promises safety, yet it quietly steals strength. It offers ease, yet it reduces resilience. Only by stepping outside its boundaries can a person rediscover the power, discipline, and courage that the human mind was always capable of developing. As we reach the end of this reflection, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The greatest enemy of human strength is not pain, but comfort. Pain has always been feared, avoided, and misunderstood. Yet it is often the very force that awakens the strongest parts of the human spirit. Comfort, on the other hand, feels peaceful and harmless, but when it becomes a permanent state of life, it slowly weakens the mind, softens the will, and dulls the desire to grow. A man rarely discovers his true strength while sitting in ease. Strength is revealed when life becomes difficult, when obstacles appear, and when the mind is forced to choose between surrender and resilience. Those moments of struggle are the moments that shape character. They demand courage, discipline, patience, and determination. Without them, the human spirit remains untested and undeveloped. History has shown this pattern again and again. The individuals who changed the world, who built great ideas, who achieved extraordinary things, were not shaped by comfort. Their lives were filled with challenges, failures, and moments that demanded everything from them. But instead of escaping those moments, they faced them. And in doing so, they discovered the power that only struggle can reveal. This does not mean that pain should be loved or that suffering should be sought for its own sake. The lesson is much deeper than that. The lesson is that pain should not be feared as an enemy. It should be understood as a teacher. When difficulty enters life, it is not always there to destroy a person. Often, it arrives to awaken them, to push them beyond their limitations, and to reveal the strength that comfort kept hidden. The danger appears when a person becomes addicted to ease. When life revolves only around convenience, entertainment, and avoiding discomfort, the mind slowly forgets how to struggle. Small challenges begin to feel overwhelming. Ordinary difficulties begin to feel unbearable. The person is not defeated by life itself, but by the weakness that constant comfort has created. True growth begins when a person changes their relationship with discomfort, when challenges are no longer seen as obstacles to escape, but as opportunities to grow stronger. Everything begins to shift. Discipline becomes easier to accept. Hard work becomes meaningful. Failure becomes a lesson instead of a defeat. The individual begins to move forward with a deeper understanding of life. Every person listening to this has potential that has not yet been fully discovered. Hidden strength, creativity, resilience, and courage exist within the human mind, but these qualities rarely appear in comfortable environments. They appear when life demands more, when effort becomes necessary, and when the individual chooses growth over ease. So the question is not whether pain will appear in life, because it inevitably will. The real question is how a person responds when it arrives. Some will run back toward comfort, trying to escape the challenge. Others will face the difficulty, learn from it, and emerge stronger than before. In the end, the philosophy of pain teaches a simple but powerful truth. Comfort may feel safe, but it rarely leads to greatness. Growth lies on the other side of struggle. And the man who learns to face pain with courage will discover that what once seemed like suffering was actually the path that led him to his strongest self.